Hello and welcome to this issue briefing on scaling restoration-focused value chains. My name is Nicole Schwab. I'm the head of nature-based solutions and 1T.org at the World Economic Forum, and I will be your moderator for this session. Forest landscapes and the conservation and restoration of forests is essential, I would say existential, if we are to address the climate and biodiversity crises. And the private sector has an essential role to play in driving restoration and scaling restoration approaches. There are many reasons why private companies would want to invest in forests. And with 1T.org, the Trillion Trees platform of the World Economic Forum, we are driving a movement and a community of companies that are engaging in this area. To date, we have 6.8 billion trees that have been pledged by different companies, and we are working together with them to ensure socially and ecologically responsible implementation. Today, we want to look at one specific aspect of this business case for restoration, and that is non-timber forest products. So what do we mean by that? There are more and more products from trees that have a huge potential, particularly in the superfoods and in the cosmetics markets. Some of these are already quite well known, açai berries, for example, or shea butter, but others are just emerging, baobab and many other commodities that are still not well known, but have a huge potential, not only in terms of their environmental and climate benefits, but also for the socioeconomic impact on the local populations. So we want to look at this today, and together with me, we have a stellar panel that is working on different angles of these restoration-based value chains. So let me introduce our panelists. First, we have Irene Arias, Chief Executive Officer at the Inter-American Development Bank, IDB Lab. Hello, Irene, thank you for joining us. Yeah. We have Gabby Ludolf from Lush Fresh Handmade Cosmetics. Hello, Gabby. And we have two of our top uplink Trillion Trees innovators. We have Wayne Collin, Executive Director and co-founder of Los Aliados in Ecuador. And hopefully joining us soon, we may have William Kwende, founder of Serious Shea in Burkina Faso. We're still trying to connect him, and we hope he will be able to join us in the course of the session. So the topics we want to cover today with our panel are really around what are some of the exciting new innovations and what are some of the partnership opportunities that can drive restoration through these non-timber forest product value chains. And so to start with, I want to turn to you, Gabby. Lush is one of those off-taker companies that is sourcing some of these natural ingredients, some of which are also quite new on the market. And you are really an example of what is possible and how we can start to drive new market opportunities at an international level for some of these commodities. So my first question to you is, can you share some of your experiences at Lush in building demand for some of these ingredients and also your approach in how you source these products?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So at Lush, we are very fortunate. We're a privately owned company and we invent, manufacture and retail our own products. So that gives us quite a degree of flexibility and a lot of room for innovation as well. So the way that we approach this is really twofold. We spent the last decade or so working on our vision of leaving the world lusher than we found it. So how can we have a regenerative impact environmentally and socially through everything that we buy? So there's a move from sustainability towards regeneration. And what does that look like in terms of environmental impact or social impact? And also on almost a regional basis. So we have had this amazing journey, an amazing opportunity as well to work with different communities, different entrepreneurs around the world. And I think for us, the people at the heart of any of these projects are key. So conservation and restoration are top of our agenda when it comes to sourcing. How can we source things in a way that enhances and protects biodiversity? But to do that, you really do need to put people at the heart of it. So for us, it's been about finding partners that have a very strong commitment and vision within their local communities, and also understanding that we don't have the answers as a company, but we're able to help support and facilitate in some of these things. So we are looking more and more to increase the number of non-timber forest ingredients that we're using, and also looking at how we can support the impact by, I guess, diversifying the systems in which these are produced. So how do you design systems that are multi-layered, that incorporate food security as well, because that's a crucial element, and also create resilience for the growers behind them, so that if there was to be a market fluctuation or a climate event, we could still ensure that the communities have their cash crops and their food. So it's very much a case-by-case, location-by-location approach that we're taking. Does that help as a starting point?
Thank you, Gabby. I think very interesting, the comprehensive approach that you mentioned, I mean, multi-layered and regenerative. And I want to ask you maybe to zoom in a little bit more specifically on some of these ingredients. With Wanti.org, we've just released a report looking at the untapped potential of Great Green Wall value chains. As we know, there are some very interesting ingredients. I mentioned some before, like baobab and shea, but also some other newer tree crop ingredients that are not yet known, where maybe there's some R&D that is still required, but that have an immense potential in the cosmetics and the superfood markets. And so I wanted to ask you maybe just to share a little bit more about whether you are already sourcing some of these, Great Green Wall value chains that can at the same time support the vision of the Great Green Wall to restore 100 million hectares across sub-Saharan Africa. And maybe also, moringa is another one of them. And also, what are some of the challenges that you as a company need to overcome in order to successfully partner with some of the local producers, SMEs, and developers?
Absolutely. So yes, we do use shea butter and moringa. Moringa has actually been fundamental in our journey on understanding restoration and regeneration. So we started working with an amazing group in Ghana that were using it to restore a very degraded landscape because it had the food benefit and then also the seeds pressed for oil. So we are using the moringa oil. We have used some powder in the past, but it's a great tree because it has so many multiple functions that it can serve in terms of income generation or food. And shea as well is a long-standing ingredient for us. And we have a couple of different suppliers that we work with. And one of the challenges with something like shea is, in order to ensure not just the now or the next 10 years, the restoration or the replanting that has to happen, but also how do you create that value for something that won't yield an income for quite a long time? And that's where the building multi-layered systems comes into play again. So for us, I'd say one of the challenges in working directly with communities or in some of the SMEs is how do we create a partnership that is beneficial and allows them to reach other customers as well, because we do have a limited demand. Even as an international company, there's only so much that we can use. So really making sure that we're setting people up to be able to access a wider market and not creating a long-term reliance, because we want everyone to be able to thrive, even if Lush weren't around. So thinking about how we do that. It's also understanding what our role is. It can be just an off-taker. Sometimes it can be providing seed funding for some of the investment or some of the projects themselves, or it can be capacity building and understanding of appropriate technology. It could be helping people understand how to access or supply to international customers. So it's really taking that view that it's not just about the financial side, but there's a whole host of other sharing of knowledge and information as well.
Thank you very much, Gabby. I think that last point is really critical in terms of the role the private sector can play. And that, as you say, there's many different, it's not just the investment, but it's also the technology transfer, the capacity building, the access to other potential off-takers as well. So I think that's a great example and a good segue, since we've been talking about shea, to William. I think William has joined us. Yes, hello, William.
Hello, Nicole.
So thank you for joining us. With Serious Shea, you have been also at the forefront in terms of developing a holistic approach to share and working with local communities. We've just heard from Lush kind of an example of what the private sector sees as opportunities in terms of supporting these value chains on the ground. So it would be really interesting to hear from your perspective. If you could share a little bit more about what you've been doing, what your approach has been to sustainability, and this link between restoration and kind of the socioeconomic development and impact on the ground.
Thank you, Nicole. We started working with shea more than 10 years ago. I left the UN around 2010, and the objective that I had was to bring agricultural technology. So we, of course, started with some agricultural project, and because one of our stakeholder based in Asia was using shea for chocolate, we started to organize the communities to be able to supply the volumes of shea that they needed. Most people don't know that 90% of shea, it's actually, it goes into chocolate and confectionery around the world. And I keep saying that this is one of the reasons why it's a key ingredient in the food supply chain, because without it, you might not have chocolate, and that's not funny. Now, we were exporting up to 20,000 tons of shea, which gave me an idea of the magnitude. Now it's estimated that about 15 million women participate in this value chain and process about 1 million tons of shea. And out of this 1 million tons, 90%, I'll say 80 to 90% goes to the confectionery industry. Now, the problem that we found very early, beside the usual issues of how the value chain is structured from the ground, which mean from the collectors all the way to the export, just to speak of what happened in country, was that in order to produce 1 ton of shea nuts, because at the time we were mostly exporting the nuts, we had to use, or the women had to use 10 tons of wood. Okay, so and we found sometime, as people can see on the great video that you've done, the World Economic Forum has done, that they were massively starting to use the shea trees themselves, and you can see the impact, because once the shea tree started to be used, it's used for a lot of other things because they take them down. And this is when, with the support of the World Bank and the African Development Bank, we developed this processing platform that we call the Clean Activity Center. So, zero carbon and deforestation free, and which can produce even a higher quality of shea butter that is available. So the problem in the value chain start at the bottom, and we had, I think yesterday was a great session about carbon monitoring in the value chain that we had with Tilem. And one of the important point today is that technology can help us to monitor the value chain and see what is the real impact. Right.
Yes, thank you, William. Maybe one last brief question, because as you rightly illustrated, it's all connected, right? And I mean, the energy, the water, the production. So we don't want to introduce perverse incentives as we're trying to scale these value chains to scale restoration. What would be your request or recommendation when talking to potential new off-takers who are interested in kind of sourcing shea, or investors, or what's kind of the one key thing that is a challenge and that really needs to be addressed by the private sector looking to engage and partner in this value chain?
Okay, we recommend that they look at the sourcing in a holistic way. You know, that they measure the real impact, and they take in account the cost, the environmental cost and the human cost of this value chain. So our value chains that we call the plus value chain is, we say it's beyond fair trade. It's beyond fair trade because you account the true value of every activities and every impact that goes into this value chain. And we are yet to fully develop the tools for that, but we have developed a tool that can help. And this is why I think yet the having a complement with satellite imagery, which is not available, can give us even more accuracy in this new label, if you want, that we call beyond fair trade.
Thank you, William. Beyond fair trade, I think very important, everything that you said. And it's a good segue to now move to the Amazon. We have another amazing entrepreneur, Wayne. You've been working with hundreds of families in Ecuador, in the Amazon, also helping them to bring their products to the market, looking kind of at the Amazon bioeconomy. So can you share a little bit more about your work and also kind of your take on these value chains, and what are some of the challenges that you've encountered in trying to link restoration with the socioeconomic impact and kind of bringing this to scale?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Nicole. So at Aliados, we're a non-profit organization. We were founded also about a decade ago, but we have quite an entrepreneurial approach. Our foundational experience was partnering with a private company, Runa LLC, to combine for-profit and non-profit resources to set up a new value chain with a very interesting crop, Amazonian crop called Guayusa tea. It's a crop which grows and is drunk in the very early mornings by indigenous communities. Every family has 1 or 2 trees in their backyard, but we saw that the crop also has very high caffeine levels, polyphenols, antioxidants, and yeah, we just thought, okay, how can we get this amazing product to market? So with Runa, we built a value chain from soup to nuts, a vertically integrated value chain connecting over 2,000 smallholder farmers to fair trade organic markets. And it's a market that now exists. Over 100 tons of Guayusa is sold per year. There are a host of new companies which exist, from farmer organizations to partner off-takers buying and selling Guayusa. Fast forward a little bit, that led us to think about, okay, really, Aliados, us as an NGO, what's our model here? What's our value add? So we took a closer look at the problem and the opportunity. And the problem is clear. Deforestation is a problem in the Amazon. Agriculture is a main driver of deforestation in the Amazon and tropical ecosystems. But there is an opportunity, and the opportunity is that the world needs more food, and that food needs to be grown sustainably. And we see that smallholder farmers really are the key to helping to solve this problem. Smallholder farmers produce food in a much more sustainable way. They produce huge volumes of food, but there isn't a great connection between these smallholder farmers and global markets. So that's where we come in. So Aliados, we're an ecosystem builder. We have an integrated model that works at the farm level, supporting farmers implement regenerative agriculture. We've been working with regenerative agriculture for the last 3 years, and it is incredible. Not only does it increase production, it increases crop resilience, it increases ecosystem services. So we work hard to support farmers with seed capital and training to implement regenerative agriculture. But then you need to get those products to market. So we incubate local businesses that have the capacity to aggregate, add value, package, and commercialize these products. So it's building local business capacity, helping with seed capital. And then another service we provide is helping to connect with off-takers. Sometimes it can be difficult. We're talking about different cultures, indigenous cultures, big global corporate off-takers. I'm sure Gabby knows all about it. There's work to be done there in building those connections. And we're very excited now to be, we're about to launch a new partnership with the IDB Lab. It's not just about selling products. There's value that's being created here in terms of carbon sequestration, in terms of how do you building traceability, connecting smallholder farmers to clients, to the end consumer. So and this is M&E. So there's a system here or a service that needs to be provided to gather and manage this knowledge at the local level and see if we can fold those values into the products that are being created. That's us.
Thank you, Wayne. That's yeah. I mean, you're providing exactly those key services, right? To connect the as you say, the smallholders with the international markets. And just a quick last question: scale. How do we get scale? How do we get more organizations like yours? What do you see as the key lever, maybe the key challenge, and kind of the key lever to be able to get to scale?
Great question. I think focusing on successes. I think that's what's needed right now, models that work. So that's what we're focusing on now. We're working in 4 different ecosystems, but going deep. I think you've got to go deep first. That it's easy to think about going broad and spreading out. But I think you've got to go deep first. Make sure that you're building local leadership is key. You can't avoid thinking about, in 10 or 15 years' time, who's going to be leading here? It won't be me. It's got to be local leadership. I think another piece is good knowledge management. I think tech has an important role to play. How do you manage the generation and creation of knowledge that connects stakeholders in a more efficient way? And then I think once you have success and once you have a systematic model, that's what we're paying a lot of attention now to. It's like with NGOs, it's very easy to become people dependent. Really hardworking employees do a great job, but we're focusing on processes and systems. So focus on processes and systems that can be replicated. Partnership, and really partnership is key. So focus on partnership principles, bring people together, negotiate, deal with conflict, and yeah, that's, I think, the way to go.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you for your great work. And this is a great segue to IDB and IDB Lab. Irene, IDB Group and IDB Lab are playing a key role here and of course, supporting entrepreneurs like Wayne with the work that they're doing. So a question to you is, when you look at this whole ecosystem, how do we kind of enable the whole ecosystem, and what is also the role of innovation to unlock some of these levers to scale, some of these partnerships? How is IDB Lab thinking about this?
Thank you, Nicole. And it's so great to be here and learn, frankly, of the different models and see Wayne and all the great work that's been done. And so I'm Irene. I lead IDB Lab. It's the innovation and venture arm of the IDB Group. So we are focused on using tools like innovation and the more and more available technologies that can be applied to solve problems, make things better using new models. And of course, very happy to be in this partnership now several years in a row with the WEF and 1trilliontrees.org and with colleagues within the IDB Group that are really passionate about this topic. And particularly, I want to thank Yves Les Enfants, who's actually right now in the heart of the Amazon, developing new opportunities in Tabatinga, in the triple border of Peru, Colombia, and Brazil. So, so I think that that this partnership that we have together amongst these different organizations, together with our capacity to be really on the ground, and as many like Gabby and William also and Wayne mentioned, the ability to connect with the local communities that are in the end going to this has to be centered around, and that are going to make it sustainable is key. And I think that's kind of the secret sauce that we have here. But I just wanted to pause a little. So why do we see such a big opportunity in bringing innovation and technology to solve this? Is number one, as Wayne said, I mean, if we look at the Amazon itself, it's the largest biodiversity region in the world, and it's distributed among 6 countries in South America. Also incredibly rich because of its people and all the different local communities. And we see that bioeconomy as a topic has grown in recent years, that now we have proven models like Aliados that show how you can generate financial income and economic growth using biological resources in a sustainable way without compromising future generations. But I want to sort of emphasize why we want to kind of double our efforts here, and this sense of urgency. If many of you have heard from Thomas Lovejoy, the professor at George Mason University, and also the Brazilian Carlos Nobre, the coordinator of the National Institute of Science and Technology for climate change, and they carried out a study that shows that the Amazon biome may suffer irreversible losses due to deforestation. It's already reached 17% in the last 50 years. So in a way, we don't have a lot of time. We are very close to kind of losing that amazing and essential asset for the entire world. So we're making this a priority. Now, the areas where we are, I think I like what Wayne said about going deep, because we could tackle many of the challenges related to this, but we're trying to bring solutions that are focused on, number one, assisting the Amazon countries in reducing the pressure on forest ecosystems. 2, supporting small and medium land users, like indigenous communities and the communities that Wayne mentioned. 3rd, together with public, private, and civil society, have frameworks and upscale economic solutions. So create also the system, not just looking at point solutions, but creating the system that can help them scale. And finally, supporting One Health and disaster risk management approaches in Amazonian territories to integrate sort of risk management, governance, and public policies. So so very exciting to continue to grow this and go deeper in addressing these 4 areas together.
Thank you, Renee. And yes, thank you also for the IBDB Lab's support of the work we've been doing with Uplink and Trillion Trees to support some of these entrepreneurs like Wayne. And as you say, the importance of taking that holistic view. So at once going deep, but at the same time having the systems view and the holistic view. So I'd love to continue our conversation, but we're coming to the end of this session already. And in closing, I hope that you've all been inspired and seen some of the opportunities that are there. Of course, these value chains are not the only angle. I mean, as Irene, as you just reminded us, there is an urgency to tackle deforestation, conservation, and restoration at scale. And these value chains that we've been talking about are one of the angles that can help us get there. And so in closing, I'm really delighted to share with you that we are today announcing the cohort of our 2022 Amazon Bioeconomy Uplink Innovators. You've heard from one of them just now, and this year we have selected a new cohort. And so I'd like to thank our panelists and to close, show you the video that presents our 2022 cohort. Thank you.
Thank you.